Hi guys, welcome back to Crossfader. Today we're going to be taking a look at the DJControl Starlight by Hercules, possibly one of the smallest and most capable Serato controllers that you can buy for under $100. Let's get into it. So here we have it. This is the DJControl Starlight. Now this is the smallest and cheapest controller you can buy from Hercules. You can buy a bit more of a bigger, more professional looking controller, the Impulse 200, for a few quid more. However, that only works with the Dejuiced software, which is their own home brand software, whereas this, the DJControl Starlight, actually works and comes bundled with Serato DJ Lite. Now, Serato DJ Lite is the stripped back beginner version of Serato DJ Pro, shares much of the same interface and look and feel. Also, its library works in much the same way. However, a lot of the features that just aren't needed by beginners have been taken out. So when you get this controller, you download Serato DJ Lite free of charge, and then you can play along with the demo tracks that come included. As you can see here, we've got 6 demo tracks that come included. You can also link to your SoundCloud Go subscription if you've got that, or Tidal. So there's 2 stream partners built in. If you don't want to do that, you can always add your own music, and it is as simple as dragging and dropping your music straight in and creating a crate just like that. If you'd like to download the Crossfader free music pack, simply click the top right corner. We'll have a link there for you to do so you can play along with these tracks that we've got in. So if I just load a track in, unfortunately this controller doesn't have any browse control on it, so there's not a dedicated knob where you can scroll through your library. It is a bit of a drawback, but on a controller of this size, it's just not necessary. So you have to use your keyboard on your laptop or your trackpad. So we can press shift and left to load that into left-hand deck, scroll through our arrow keys. Alternatively, we can just click, drag and drop. Now what Serato is going to do is going to analyze these files straight away for us, and then we can get into the art of DJing. So with this controller, we do have 2 jog wheels. They're rather small, but we do have them. We can use them to scrub through our track whilst it's paused, like so. We can do that on both decks, and then we can set our key points using the key buttons down here. These jog wheels are actually capacitive, touch capacitive, so if we've got a track playing, what we can do is we can actually use these to scratch or scrub through our track quicker, just like so. We can turn off this feature by simply pressing the vinyl button here, and then it will simply just be used for pitch bending rather than when the vinyl button's on, being able to stop the track dead and scratch with it. It's a really nice feature to have on a controller so small, is the capacitive jog wheels. Up until recently, it was the only controller of this size that had such an ability, really set itself apart. On the either side of the jog wheels, we've got these very small tempo faders, pitch faders. These have a nice click in the middle of them, so you know when you're dead center, they just click into the center there. Unfortunately, we don't have any pitch lock button on here, or pitch in time for Serato. So what we have to do that in the software. So what that means is if I'm playing a track, when I speed it up, it will pitch up at the same time. The faster I play it, the higher the pitch, or the slower, the lower the pitch. So to stop this happening, we can simply click up here in the software, do it for both decks, and now when we speed up, the pitch stays the same no matter what speed we're playing the track at. So nice little feature there to have. Nice little notches in the tempo faders. It's just a shame we don't have the dedicated button, but again, on a controller this size, it's all about making compromises to fit what you need into such a small package. So at the bottom we've got our cue button and play button. These are very hard, brittle plastic. They offer great response. The entire controller, all the buttons are actually made of the same plastic, so throughout it's all hard, brittle plastic, but it does give really good feedback rather than the soft touch rubberized pads that other controllers have used in the past. I much prefer these buttons. We've got the large sync buttons to the side to sync our tracks if you want to use that feature. To turn sync off, we can simply get sync on. We can simply press the shift button up here and then turn it off as well. Up top, we have got our shift button, as I've just mentioned. This is allows us to access secondary features on the controller. So anything that's got a white label underneath the controller, that's what the shift button will access. Up top, we have our cue buttons for our headphones here. So we cue the left deck or the right deck. If we want to cue the master or have like a split cue so we can hear the master and our cue tracks as well, we can just press shift. Press that, so then when we hold shift we see that's illuminated. That is cueing the master, so we can hear the master out at all times. Turn that off. Or we can have a cue and mix system, so where the master is, you can hear the master at a quieter level when we have this mode on, and then when, on top of that we can also cue our tracks on top and hear them louder. It's nice to have that ability all on the controller there. The top left here we have our master level. This is the volume level that goes out to the speakers. Speakers are plugged in here by a 3.5mm jack out, so there's no RCAs on this, so just basically a small headphone connection out. So you will need like a 3.5 to RCA connection if you want to plug it into some speakers. And then on the right hand side is the exact same port but for the headphones, which is a typical small headphone port there. These offer, you know, it's okay for the size of the controller. They're not the greatest ports in the world, and they don't sound the best either. But again, this controller is all about being small and portable, so that's to be expected on something as small as this. On the right hand side we have our headphone volume control as well, so that's just how loud the headphones get. This controller, for the size of it, does actually get pretty loud. We've never had a problem with the volume of this little controller. We've got individual volume knobs for our tracks as well, one for the left deck, one for the right deck. This doesn't control the overall gain coming out of Serato, so if you want to change the volume of the gain, you've got a master gain just up here in the top right corner, and then you've got your individual gains here. Now on the right hand deck you can see this is automatically gained. The Serato software has automatically set our gain, so we're not clipping. On the left hand side that's not happened because it's the first time I've loaded that track in, and that's why that little gain knob is white. So that's showing that it's just at halfway point as usual. So if I play that track, it's not actually clipping, so it's absolutely fine. But if I went to reload that track in again, so it was drop it to the floor. So I'll just load another song in for the time being. And then when I go back to drop it to the floor, because the software has analysed it, you can see it's analysing the track there for the first time again. It will come up with a white auto gain here. So you see the auto gain has not been applied. But if I go back to that drop it to the floor track, which we've just loaded in before, you can see now the software has played it before, so it's actually adjusted the gain and made it grade it out. So that way, when I play the track, you can see it's just going to the oranges this time now. And that's because the software has auto gained it for us. It's a really neat, handy feature that Serato has in it. Makes the tracks sound good and means no matter what we do with our volume controls down here, we're not adjusting that gain, so we're not going to accidentally run it into the reds. Now this controller has a crossfader. We don't have any up faders, so you've got two options really when it comes to mixing. You can rotary mix, so using the volume controls, we can turn the volume controls down on, say, this right deck, get our track playing, just adjust that, there we go, and then we can mix a track in by simply getting it in time and using the other volume control here. So we can use the rotary knobs to do our mix. Alternatively, we can use the crossfader. So the crossfader offers no control on the controller itself. It is always in use. So if you want to change the crossfader setting, you have to go into the settings, and then you go to mixer, and down here we can change the curve of the crossfader or disable it completely, or make it a hamster style, so reverse which side is which. So as standard, on the left deck is at full volume, the right deck's at full volume. At the moment I've got the crossfader curve quite fast for scratching. This crossfader has quite a large cut in, so if I get this track playing, you'll be able to see that it takes quite a distance to get over before that track comes through. So you can see we've gone probably 3-4 millimeters across before we've actually got that track coming through. So it's a large cutting on this controller. It's the same on the other side. It's quite a large cutting, so even on its fastest setting, this isn't a crossfader you're going to be scratching with really, but we can change the curve down to the middle and we can use the crossfader for mixing. So if we get our track playing, mix in, and if we start going across, and we can use the crossfaders to mix. So although we've got no up faders, it's still a good controller for messing about with. We can learn to mix on this controller, no problem at all. We have a bass filter knob just underneath our volume knobs. This is basically a really good solution to the problem of not being able to fit in a proper EQ. So obviously we don't have enough room to have a 3-band EQ, you know, a high, a mid and a bass knob. So what Hercules have quite cleverly done is they've given us a bass/filter knob. So as standard, this is just a bass knob, and we can take the bass out of the track. This is useful because when you're mixing, you usually take the bass out of the track you're going to mix in, because when you're overlapping your kicks, that's when you end up with a lot of distortion and you're pushing your speakers too hard. So when you're basically mixing between songs, as a general rule of thumb, you'll have the bass off. So just having the bass control rather than a full 3-band EQ allows you to still perform those mixes like you would even with a bigger mixer. However, obviously you don't have a high pass or a low pass filter. So what this control does, if you press this button up here, this changes it from being just a bass knob into a high pass, low pass filter. So as I'm playing this track at the moment, it's just a bass control, so take the bass out or add more bass. But if I press this button, when the white light is illuminated, now when I sweep to the right, it's a high pass filter. And when I sweep to the left, it's a low pass filter. So it's a really neat little feature Hercules have put in there to, you know, give us the option between mixing or getting creative and adding a bit of flair. One thing to note, however, with this knob is that if you, say for example, set your high pass there and then turn the knob off, turn it to bass mode, no matter what I do now with the bass, if I turn the bass up, turn the bass down, that high pass filter is still active, as you can hear, even though we've turned the filter mode off. So then we'd have to turn the filter mode back on and reset that knob to turn the filter back off again. So it's just worthy of note, especially if you mixed in, for example, with the bass turned off, and then you flick to the filter and you're messing around with the filter and you're thinking, this doesn't sound right. You may have turned the bass off by accident. So it's worth just turning that back off and resetting the knob every time before you flick between the modes. This tiny controller also manages to fit in 4 performance pads. So these are again made of the same hard plastic as the others, but they have a nice click and a nice response to them, and they control 4 performance modes. So we've got hot cue as default, that automatically activates. We can set up to 4 hot cues, so we set the first one, and when you press it and hold, it'll play from that hot cue. When you let go, it'll jump back to where that hot cue was. So we can set numerous hot cues. And then we can use the shift button to delete them out as well. Just like that. We've also got a loop. So if we get a loop mode, press the loop mode button on. The 4 button activates an 8-bar auto loop. And then if we press it again, it will simply release that loop. The number 3 pad will set a 4-bar auto loop. And then again, you can turn it off. The 2-bar is a 2-bar loop, and then the 1 button is a 1 beat. When you're in a loop, you can also shorten that loop by pressing another lower or higher value. just like that. To access the second layer of performance modes, we press the shift button. So below hotkey we have effects, so press shift, press hotkey, and now hotkey is flashing, we're in the effects mode. So if I open the effects panel up here in Serato, so we see what's actually happening, we have 3 banks of effects here, so we can choose between the basic effects we in Serato. So if I choose an echo, a reverb, and we'll leave that on flanger. Now, unlike any other performance controller I've seen in Serato, this effects mode actually acts like pad effects, which are quite famous in the Record Box series of controllers. So usually with Serato effects, you have an on-off button and then a knob that you twist to apply the effect. But in this controller, when you're playing a track, for example, when you press and hold on this pad, you will then get the effect. So if I press and hold pad 2, we get reverb. Pad 3, the flanger, and pad 1, the echo. Number 4, as you can tell, we don't have 4 effects banks. The pad number 4 will change the beat value. So I can go 2, 4, 8, 16th, 8, and it'll just cycle round. So no matter how many times you press that, it's just an easy way of changing the beat division of the effect. And these effects, if you press on them and hold, so reverb, work post fader. So if I cut the fader off whilst holding the echo, it's post fader. It sounds really nice, they're really clean. And yeah, I've never seen pad effects or, activating pads with, activating effects with pads before in Serato, so it's really nice to see that implemented here, because on such a small controller you don't usually get to access all the performance features, but with this one you do. Finally, we've got the sampler mode, so if we press shift and loop, we can access the sampler. So I'm just going to close the effects pane here and open up the sampler pane, and we can see here that it comes with 4 samples already built in. So we've got air horn, siren, sub drop, and sweep up. So when I press the pads, we get the sound effect. Now these are triggered once and they'll play all the way through, so it doesn't matter how many times you press it, you can't pause it again. It'll just start playing it over itself. Nice little feature, especially for them urban DJs out there. To get out of these modes, you simply just click back and then we're back to hot cue or loop or whichever you like. Finally, on this Hercules DJControl Starlight, we have quite a unique feature. That is the LEDs that are underneath the controller itself. So these LEDs actually illuminate the table that you put it on. So if I turn the lights off in the studio like this, you should be able to see when I press play, the underneath of this table lights up. Now what's happening here is there's 4 LEDs, 2 per deck, underneath the controller, and we can actually set these lights to do different things. So if I go to the settings and then go to the mixer section, we can see we've got the lighting control. So we're gonna have this completely turned off for pitch blackness. We're gonna have it just turned on, and it'll just glow through different colors and different settings. And then the one I really like is the beat fade and the beat flash. So on beat fade, what happens is, on the first beat of every bar, it will flash red. For the 3 remaining beats of that bar of music, it will flash blue. So if I press play, red, blue, 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 red, blue, 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 red. This is really handy for beginners wanting to DJ and mix and get there, set the next track off in perfect phrase. So rather than pressing play and have it technically in time by the beats, but out of phrase, so dropping it on the 3rd beat of the bar or something like that, we can now use these lights to know when the first beat of the bar is. So if I press play on the red, I know I'm in time. And it's just a really cool feature to help mix in. There we go. Perfectly in phrase. The beat flash is the exact same, but just flashes rather than having the fading effect on it. We also have a master volume control one here, so if we have the track playing, it just basically does a light show according to the volume of the master. So if I turn it up, you have more going on. So it just flashes the volume. When I turn it down, it gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer till it goes off. Underneath this, we have waveform color. So as you can see, if I go back out of here, when I press play, this is reacting to the right hand deck's waveform colors. When I bring the crossfader across, press play on this one, the left hand deck is doing a completely different light show because this is reacting to the different waveform colors that are on the right hand deck. So if I stop that deck, it'll just stay on the white because it's not playing. If I stop that deck, it also goes back to white. And then finally, we have cue point countdown. So for this mode to work, we need to have a cue point set. So I'm just going to skip into this track here and quickly set a cue point. So I've got a cue point now. I'm also going to put a cue there. So as I press play, as you can see, the color changed and got more intense to the red as we reach that cue point, and now as we leave that cue point, it's fading back to white. So if I set another one, as we leave that cue point, it will fade away. As you can see in the software, our first cue point is actually red and our second one is orange. So as we get closer towards the first red cue point, the light will get gradually more red, and now we've hit it. And now it's fading out of the red and we're coming up to an orange cue point. So it will get more and more strongly orange with the light as we reach that cue point. Here it comes, and bang, we've hit it. And now it's going to fade away from the orange because we're moving away, and it'll go back white. These are really, really nifty little tools. And a great visual aid to go along with your DJing. If nothing else, if you're at a house party, it's nice and dark, they look very cool. And there we have it, the DJControl Starlight by Hercules. This is possibly one of the cheapest and most portable controllers that you can get for Serato DJ. It comes bundled with Serato DJ Lite, but you can use it with Serato DJ Pro. So if you're a professional DJ and you're wanting to carry a controller as a backup, this being as small and as light as it is, it's a great solution. The only real knacks I have with it are the 3.5mm output. It doesn't sound the best, so you know I won't really want to plug this into larger club size speakers, but if it's a backup, it's a backup. It's better than having silence, I suppose. I really like its light up bottom. I think the beat flash mode that helps beginner DJs stay in phrase is really useful, and the fact it's actually got a basic bass/filter kind of EQ just puts itself above its rivals in this price point and size. Let us know your thoughts on this controller. If you like it, let us know in the comments below. Remember to click the top right hand corner to download the music pack I mentioned earlier. Give it a thumbs up if you've liked this video, subscribe for more content just like this, and we'll see you in another video sometime soon. Cheers, bye.